Lean Business Ireland second webinar in the series of continuing or supporting productivity during COVID-19. This one is particularly focused around cocooning your business. I'd like to welcome you all and thank you very much for your time. I'm a stickler for time, so I promise you that we'll be done by 7:30 p.m. We are just some housekeeping before we start. If you have any questions, please use the chat function to communicate. Please keep your microphones on mute at all points throughout, as background noise will create a significant distraction. Without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to our host, Helen Downs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shannon, and welcome everyone to Lean Business Ireland's second online discussion. And we've set the bar really high because the last discussion was very robust, and I was really energized to actually walk away and actually agree after Maria O'Donnell had done the moderating for the last events to do the moderating for this. So for those of you not familiar with the Lean Business Ireland network, it's a collective of networks across the island of Ireland. And these networks bring together multinational companies, SMEs and micro enterprise to talk around how they can build and actually building a more competitive environment and economy with the businesses that they work in. So there's networks based in Dublin, networks based in the Midlands, in Northeast, Southeast, Southwest and West, Northwest and the Midwest. And for Shannon Chamber, who I am the CEO with, I manage and we coordinate the Midwest network, and it is going from strength to strength like the other networks across the island. So with regard to the networks, they're also very strongly supported by IDA, by Enterprise Ireland, by the universities, by the Institute of Technologies, by IBEC, by ICBI, and by Lean Construction Ireland. So if you're not involved with the network, I'd suggest you reach out to Shannon and get pointed to actually consider joining one of the networks at some stage, because the collaboration with the networks is pretty significant, and you will learn, if not visit some of the companies who are putting into place really good practices to become more competitive in a very competitive landscape. So I'm going to conduct 4 mini interviews this afternoon with 4 businesses who are spread across the island of Ireland. We have a business from Donegal, a business from Kildare, Cork and Dublin, and they operate in very different sectors, which is great, but they've all been listed as non-essential services when the Taoiseach recently announced that companies would have to mobilise themselves to actually manage the business in the current COVID-19 crisis. So our focus today is going to be to talk around productivity, communication, training and planning. So I'm going to ask each of our panelists to keep a focus on that type of dialogue. I've not spoken to the first speaker. John Roulstone is the production manager with Kirchhoff Atomotive, which I hope I've pronounced right, John. But welcome to our online discussion. And I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself, to talk a little bit about your business, and to talk about where you're at today versus where you were at a few weeks ago.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, Helen. Yeah, Kirchhoff Automotive. We are a German family-owned company up in Letterkenny. The company has been in Letterkenny for 40 years now next year. We've around 65 employees. We're part of a much larger group of companies. The Kirchhoff Group would have maybe 30 plants doing what we do, but on a much larger scale. What we do in essence is we manufacture the underbody parts of the car. So metal parts on the underbody of the car that, let's say, that no one sees. So we've been going from strength to strength. Maybe in the last couple of years, we've grown the business after a tough time after the last recession. The years following that was tough. Particularly in automotive, but for us stuck on an island, it was particularly tough. But the last 2 years now have been very positive, and we've grown. So this was, let's say, a real disaster. It took the wind out of our sails. We somehow predicted it coming, maybe 2 weeks out. We could feel it. As a company, we kind of had a 2-pronged fear. One was the health of our employees, obviously, and how we would protect a mass spread, let's say, within the plant. And secondly was, if our customers don't shut down, how are we going to maintain supply? So you kind of had one of these risk scenarios that you think's never going to happening. But we were following the media in Europe, and luckily with our lean setup, we're set up as close to a jet plant as we possibly can be. So we were able to protect the business quite well in terms of days stock. So we weren't too bad there, and really we were lucky in a sense that all the large OEMs, all the car manufacturers in Europe, from the Monday to the Wednesday of St. Patrick's Week, they all closed. So that allowed us to shut the plant down on the 18th of March, because all our major customers were closed.
Wow, so a huge impact to you almost immediately, even though you'd been keeping an eye on what was happening across Europe and across the globe.
Yeah.
Today, you had 65 employees in the plant.
Yeah.
Has there been any remote working opportunities for the?
Yeah, we've been fairly busy. So all our productive staff, let's say, our direct workers, obviously they have all been at home. So we've had no remote working opportunities for the guys on the floor, let's say. But our middle management and our senior management, we've all been working each day with remote access. Myself and two of the other managers are involved in a global committee where we are developing the standards or the processes that we need in place for all our companies around the world to return to operations whenever it happens.
So you're seeing yourself linked up with the global operation to future business and to be a value add to continue with that kind of contribution globally.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity and good experience for us. We're connected with our colleagues in North America and our colleagues in mainland Europe. So there's been no lack of work, let's say, on that front for the last week or two.
So out of the 65, how many people have you been able to redeploy into that type of scenario, John?
At the minute, we have maybe 10 that are still working with remote access. Only 3 of us are involved on the committee, but remotely in terms of thinking how to utilize this downtime, because in the automotive sector, there is no downtime when we're working in a JIT environment. So we have four champions now defined who are working on the analysis phase of continuous improvement projects. Because we don't see this coming back, we don't see the automotive coming back at 100%. It'll be phased, and what we hope to do is hit the ground running, albeit hopefully the first week of May at the minute, to utilize this time to do maintenance activities, to do other activities, cleaning and so on, that maybe would be considered non-value adding normal work time.
So if you look at what you're doing now to try to future-proof your business and to get back on track, are you upskilling your people during this time to make sure that they're ready for the upswing?
Yeah, we have a very small management team, because the margins are so tight. We can't afford them, for want of a better word. So we have identified maybe 4 people that can take on the kind of these lean or continuous improvement projects now, when we have 4 or 5 weeks that it's maybe not so critical time wise. They can use this as a great training experience, to first of all to deliver these projects with the support of the management, but secondly to be able to drive such improvements in the future.
And John, can I ask you, you mentioned you had 30 plants worldwide.
Yeah.
An opportunity during this time maybe to take some of what's happening at the other locations over here, because they're maybe more at risk of not actually being as sustainable as you may be?
It's not, with our own plants, there's probably not that opportunity, but in the sector itself, who knows, maybe someone's ill game could be our benefit, because it is a very tough sector we're in, particularly the components we make, and there is probably some chance that we may pick up existing business from suppliers that are not able to supply the OEMs anymore.
Okay, and on the communication side, obviously you've had to engage with 65 employees and there's a huge knock-on effect for your suppliers. How have you managed that and to retain that loyalty and relationship with those?
Yeah, we've had a two-pronged approach here, one coming from corporate. So our communication and marketing department in Germany have really done a good job here, because twice a week, every Tuesday, and actually at this time now on a Thursday, they have a webinar like this where the senior management, so the family, in essence the family and some other senior like special guests in Germany will join a conference like this, and there's different topics, so it reassures everyone that we're going to be okay as a company, and then everyone globally has an opportunity to communicate directly through a chat function like this.
Okay.
So also they're updating our intranet, so anybody that is logged on remotely is as well receiving information. At a plant level for us here in Letterkenny, we still have our shop floor management meetings, so our daily huddles, but we are doing them with the leaders via an app called Blue Jeans. Again, it's something similar to this. So we've been able to keep that up daily, even if the content is not so much related to our daily work, but it allows us to stay in touch. And then also once per week, our own local HR department will send out an email to all our staff with a short update on, for example, revenue with the COVID payment, or each week we try to communicate when we predict we may have return to operations. But every week it's been pushed out a little, so.
Okay, so a big challenge with regard to kind of dealing with the external, with the employees and with the vendors, and keeping everybody kind of track with where you're positioned. Are your suppliers asking a lot of questions around when you're likely to return back to a business as usual, or how are they impacted, John?
It's really where our suppliers and us are driven. If you look at the complete value stream of a car, it's all dictated by the OEM or by the actual car manufacturers. So they have stopped all their orders. So we backfill that down the chain, let's say, so to speak. But we're fully integrated with an EDP MRP system. So we have to monitor that daily, and our suppliers have to monitor that daily. But there's a general consensus within the automotive industry that they will give 8 days notice when they will start to ramp up production again.
Okay, John, I've had questions coming in, and just before we move on to our next speaker, Brian, has the company used the subsidy scheme or the COVID payment?
Yeah, we're currently administrating that on behalf of the government. So we're as normal with that, and then it'll be refunded.
And another question, thank you for answering that. Of the people who are working at home, how are you maximizing the return of investment of paying people while they're at home?
This is challenging, and like I touched on earlier, we have a small team that we can touch on, let's say, our salary-based workers, and at the minute, because we're trying to keep everyone safe and no one is going into the plant, we're doing analysis. So we have all our data. We can still log on to our SAP and pull out our data. So the guys that we have, the champions, are in the analysis phase. So reviewing maybe breakdowns and customer orders. So that's all ready, and hopefully in 2 weeks' time when we can say, let's go. But
I suppose it's a moving feast until you can stabilize to some extent. John, you're off the hook. Thank you so much for talking and being with us here today. I'm going to move on to our next speaker, Brian Conroy, who is the Managing Director with Pop-Up Races Kildare, a micro-enterprise that was established in 2014. And I managed to speak to Brian earlier today, and he's very familiar with the Kildare Chamber of Commerce. Brian, I understand you know Alan Shine, so it was good to know that you're engaging with the Chamber network. I wasn't familiar with Pop-Up Races, but what a great business it is, Brian. So I'm going to hand it over to you to talk a little bit about your role and what you're doing in your capacity as Managing Director of this business.
Thanks very much, Helen. I suppose our business, it's a business I always thought was bulletproof to start with. I always thought that if there's any business that can't be stopped, it was ours, because people will always want to run, people will always want to exercise. And then obviously COVID-19 came and that changed everything. So for the non-runners, for people who are runners or swimmers or triathletes in the group, they'll understand the concept of chip timing. And that's essentially what our business is. It's an event management and chip timing company. And for those not so familiar, it's probably best to use an example. So tonight on Holy Thursday, every year, the streets of Kilkenny grind to a halt. So Kilkenny City Harriers, which is the athletics club in Kilkenny City, hosts our annual 5K race around the city. And they'd engage us to work with them on the event management side of things. So they would look after dealing with the council, getting marshals for the race and promoting it. And what we do for them is we'd work with them from the start. We take online registrations on our website. People will come on, they register, they pay their money. Our graphic designer would work with them around designing medals and sourcing medals, designing t-shirts and sourcing t-shirts. So we'd have suppliers in China and Spain for those. And then on race night, a crew of three of us will go down to assist the registration, to build, to finish in gantry, put up the clock, have a bit of music and photographs and all the rest, and time the race. The timing is probably the easy part. Everyone wears one of these little bibs, a little RFID tag on the back of it. They run over the start line, the tag activates, they run back over the finish line, it deactivates. One minus the other is their race time. So that's kind of it, put simply anyway.
So you kind of do business across the island of Ireland, because I looked at your website and I think you started off with a small amount of people engaging with you, and then you went to 80 or 90,000, if I'm right in saying that, or maybe more.
Correct, yeah. Our first race, funny enough, we timed a race, there was 27 people at it, so it was probably more marshals than runners, but we stuck at it. We timed about 180,000 people last year. We're probably on course to go to 200 races this year and probably 250,000 runners. That won't be the case now, but that's what we were looking at up to March 8th. March 8th was our last race, and then obviously things started to turn fairly drastically for us, and our revenues went from, our busiest period would be March to June, and literally overnight, March to June was wiped out by our customers. Unfortunately, had to put the races on because mass gatherings aren't allowed.
Brian, from speaking to you today, you were really excited and energized about an opportunity to reinvent yourself, because you've gone into that whole virtual racing. You spoke about people running marathons outside their back garden and staying sane during this crisis. Talk a little bit about how you're actually looking to reinvent pop-up races.
Yeah, so I suppose what we've had to do is, for us, we've had to, in terms of cocooning our business, we've tried to make sure that there's cash in the business and keep cash in it so we can come out the far side stronger. So we found that people are still running. They're running within social distancing and social guidelines, but they're still running. And we've created a few virtual challenges whereby you go onto our website, sign up for a race, run it in your own time. So it could be a 5K or 10K or a half marathon, or whatever it might be. run it in your own time, submit your evidence to us, so a little picture of your watch and your time, say I did a half marathon in 2 hours, whatever it was. We'll then post out a medal to you, and then the next day that person is on social media with their medal taking a picture. Don't look at me. I did a race. It wasn't against anyone, but I did one. And that person's time goes into a leaderboard of times. So people all around the country, we're shipping medals to all around the world, really. We ship medals to New Zealand, Australia, different places. And people are doing these races and then coming back to us to say, here's our time. And so that's what we've had. It was kind of sink or swim for us, I suppose, Helen. So we tried to reinvent ourselves a little bit, and this has worked well for us.
And I think the other discussion was the opportunity to engage with the younger generation, because even from just being kind of locked in and actually being isolated, we can see a lot more people just taking the short walks with their parents. Do you think there's a market there? Because I think it's going to trigger off or spark something with the younger generation now.
Absolutely, and it's something we've seen. Even you look out the window of your house and you see so many families out walking and jogging, and with the kids on the bikes. One of our challenges is the 1K Kids Challenge, and it's by far the most popular race we've had. The kids are like kids from 3, 4, 5, 6 years of age. Getting a letter in the post is an exciting thing for them. Opening the letter and having a medal inside, they're really, really excited about it. And I suppose that from there they want to go again, and we're getting emails in from families all the time. When are you doing your next one? When can we sign the kids up again? So I suppose that's been good for us, and it could have went one of two ways, and thankfully with the decent weather, it's gone well for us. So
yeah, and I think again, Brian, from talking to you today, you spoke about the digital media, which is really interesting because we're all on these social media platforms. So your reach now is obviously kind of stretching, and kind of talk a little bit about that strategy. Yeah,
so in terms of communications, Helen, like our big asset is probably our social media. We've quite a big Facebook following. We have a huge database. Obviously, if we're timing 170 or 80,000 runners a year, they're all signing up for our websites. We have data on them that they're giving to us, and from that, then we're working on marketing. We're actually upskilling our marketing team at the moment, and working on strategies around different MailChimp and linking our database into our Facebook following and all the rest, just to really slicken up our marketing. And another key revenue stream for us is advertising. So we work with multinationals. Kia Motors Ireland would be a partner of ours, and they would advertise with us, and they'd sponsor a race series that we have. And for them, they see a demographic of young, fit, energetic people, and that's who they want driving their cars, as an example. And so we're trying to making sure we're keeping them happy as well.
Yeah, and I guess, again, from the conversation we had earlier, you're probably leaner now because of the crisis. Can you expand on that comment earlier?
Yeah, that'd be fair to say. As we said earlier, we're quite lean, but there's always a bit of fat in the company, and that was purposely there. I like to run myself, so the less time I can spend in here and the more time I can spend out running, the happier I am. So unfortunately, that's not the case anymore. We had a staff of about 14, probably 10 part-time and 4 full-time here. All but 2 of us are here now. Like the 10 part-time will all come back because they're working at the events. So when the events kick off again, they'll come back. It's supplementary income for them. But our full-time will probably go from 4 to probably 2.5. I'll come back and do more work. But the business is a lot more streamlined as a result. And I think that we've been working on the lean side of our business for the last 18 months. And putting systems in place rather than investing in people. We're investing in systems. We're at a point now that the people who have developed systems they'll probably move on, but the systems are there. So it's been great for us in that regard. And as I said, we're looking forward to. We'll probably be the last market to get back up and running. So obviously you can have social distancing in pubs and social distances in different places, but the Dublin City Marathon, you can't have 25,000 people social distancing. It just won't work. So we'll probably be the last industry to get up and running, but when we do, we expect we'll be a far slicker operation for it.
So what's that relaunch going to be like? What do you envisage, if this relaunch was going to be hopefully sooner rather than later, what's that going to be for you guys?
For us, it's going to be pretty busy, Helen, because we've had 3 months of postponements and cancellations over between March, April, May, probably into June and July. A lot of those are charities or clubs that still need to fundraise, so they're going to try and push the race out to later in the year. So you have a full calendar from August through to December, and now it's just going to be doubled. So for us, in the background at the moment, we're working on making our manuals and our standard operating procedures like really, really dummy proof. So we're gonna have to hire a lot more people when things get back to normal, and we need to be able to get them up to speed really, really quickly. So from that, so we're making our manuals as simple to follow as possible, and we're getting all our work ready in the background to go hiring, so that when, like, the last thing I want to do as an owner is say no to an existing customer. No, I can't look after you because we're fully booked that day. So in the background, we're lining up finance. We're going to need more gear. We're going to need more vans. All that's happening in the background. So when the restrictions are lifted, we're pressing go and all that, and we'll hopefully be a bigger company at the far side.
So social media and a blend of just redeveloping and redefining what you're doing across, you know, the different kind of networks that you're using at the moment. Social media is going to be king for you guys, isn't it? Just to really raise the bar and actually increase your profile. I wasn't familiar with you. So for example, the chamber network is maybe an opportunity to plug into over 40 chambers on the island. Absolutely,
yeah. And I'd say, and the kind of corporate side of things is an area we've moved into in the last kind of 12 months. So we've been working with Lidl. We go to Facebook, different places where during the week the people are looking to put on a race for their staff, and you go into a car park, you fill up your gantry, they run around for half an hour and come back and they're energized going back to work in the afternoon. And likewise, we worked with the Midlands Chamber as an example. They had a staff relay and a barbecue last summer in Tullamore. That was a roaring success. All the businesses around the county got involved. It was a big night out for them. There happened to be a run in the middle of it, followed by barbecue and a few beers afterwards. And it was just a really good social occasion. So that's a space that we're thankfully moving into as well. And hopefully this summer, maybe this summer, but if not, then definitely next summer, there'll be a lot more of that, we hope.
Well, you've got an audience of maybe 100 here tonight, I'm not too sure. So hopefully some of these will actually be your new clients at some stage. Brian, thank you so much. It was lovely speaking with you, and stay on board. We have some general questions we're going to ask to all of the panelists to at the end. I'm going to move on to Stephen Jiang, the Managing Director with Fervour and Hugh Cork, an Irish-owned company. And I'd like to thank Stephen for joining us here today. I only spoke to Stephen this afternoon. Really brilliant business. So I'm going to let him talk a little bit about himself, the business, and the journey he's on with this COVID-19 crisis.
Thanks very much, Helen. Yes, we had a brief conversation this afternoon, just to give people an idea of what we do. I suppose we set up a Fervour and Hugh about 4 years ago in Cork. We are a home interior brand. Our passion is about colour. Where we're hoping to be the interior brand is for the people that kind of desire with colour. I suppose the way with our business is that we design all our products kind of in Ireland, and we manufacture them overseas in China and in some in Europe as well. But I suppose we've probably seen this COVID-19 thing a lot longer than others people have experienced. Like, you know, the COVID-19 happened in China back in December. So like we have experiencing the supply chain issues. And so I think that, like, early on you were asking, I think Brian, that question is, what's your day like now compared to, you know, what was before? For us now is every week is very different. You know, when the first kick off, we were looking at, you know, how do we cost cut? You know, we're literally looking at our P&L line by line and try to reduce costs wherever we can. Now we're looking at, okay, let's have a look at our different route to market. How can we, you know, still continue with our business? I suppose with ourselves, we were kind of lucky in a way is that because we were involved with the Lean program with the store back in last year in Cork, and we have developed many different I suppose channel to market. I suppose we do have a retail outlet, and we also have concession stores around the country, which we collaborate with other retailers that want to, you know, something different for their store, and, you know, in turn want to upgrade their store, even just add something different. So we work with, we have 9 concession stores around the country, and we also have our online business as well. So when the COVID-19 first hit Ireland, our business is the first one to get kind of closed down after the pubs. So because we're considered as very non-essential, I suppose, you know, but a lot of our concession stores, they were still operating. and because they were home interior store, they sell paint and they sell wallpaper as well. So that and there's a category of hardware. So we were able to kind of still operating through that channel, and then we come up with a lot of offers or collaboration ideas working with that channels. So that lasted for about a week and a half. So that got closed down, and then our route to market become narrower and narrower. So where we're focusing on now, the only thing we have left was kind of online, and that's something we were working on for, I suppose, for the last number of years. And I suppose it's always at the back of our head rather than at the forward, right? And now we have the time. We're looking at it and say, okay, you know, when this has become the only channel to market, we have to do something about this. So luckily we do have people kind of lined up beforehand, and different companies look at our websites and how can we improve it. And then one of the interesting points that came up within last week or two, I think I talked with you a little bit earlier, Helen, is I noticed our ad spend, which we normally do anyway on the social media for our online store, our hits for our online store for the same amount that we spend online has doubled. And obviously that's because everybody's at home and they are on their phones and they are looking for something to do. And then we just notice, okay, look, this is the area that we probably need to explore a little bit more. Because, you know, if that's the only way we're kind of attracting people at the moment, that's probably not the place we want to cut cost, right? So since then, we actually doubled our spend through our social media advertising. And since then, we actually hire a third-party company as well to help us regarding to doing the SEOs and for the website and doing Google ads and, you know, all that kind of stuff as well. Yeah, so that way, just kind of like focus a little bit more, just kind of the online store, and make sure we're pushing ourselves forward. And also, I now I have the time, and now I do attend quite a bit of a conference like this. So the one I attended yesterday was actually very interesting. They were talking about storytelling for brands. You know, what do people do now when COVID-19 hit everybody at home? But one of the experts on the panel was saying, like, everybody's hungry for content. They're all at home. There's only so much COVID-19 news you can listen to. You know, they all listen about, they all want something else to do, or, you know. And so, like, if you're a small business, if you're doing things like offer something free, offer some training sessions online, you know, try to connect with your audience. And now is not the time for you to be quiet. Now is the time for you to actually shout about your business and get out there and maintain that connection with your customers. And when you do get reopened, those customers won't forget you, you know, because if you become quiet now, more than likely when you reopen, they won't come back to you anyway, you know. And so Stephen, that's the general.
And Stephen, you invested in a communication with the Leo, and you secured a funding voucher to support your online strategy, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I suppose we were able to apply for the business continuity voucher, and so that which is great, which is very helpful. And so in turn, then we can actually put all that into our online store, and then we can really kind of develop a strategy for online advertising to target our audience a bit better for our product. You know, can really kind of spend the time looking at segregate your customers.
Okay, Stephen, I have a question here from one of our participants. She has no experience of online business. Are online businesses, and in your instance, selling products such as yours, hit with logistical issues in delivering orders considered that non-essential travel?
Yeah, I suppose that's one of the things that we were looking at as well. I suppose that's a good thing. When we were working with the Lean program as well with Store last year, we were looking at our business functions and how we kind of managing our logistics and how we're managing our warehousing, etc. So we're lucky enough we were able to segregate our warehouse and our retail unit separately. So our warehouse is actually like in the off-site, and when we have one person managing the warehouse, and he doesn't need to be there all the time, he's only like twice a week. And then we actually have established a relationship with our carriers. Is the ones that we pack the products, we leave it there, literally in the loading bay, and then we contact our carriers, and they come out and pick up in the afternoon. So there's no human touching interactions at all. So literally one person pack up the stuff and leave it there. In the afternoon, the on-post come in, pick it up, and they take it away.
Okay, so Stephen, what I'm getting from you is you're taking advantage of the time to actually look at how you can actually raise your profile through social media. You're investing, and you're actually looking at ways to actually do this with the best possible platforms. And you're using Facebook as an Instagram and Google Ads, and really pushing that edge out now. So are you kind of setting KPIs for you to reach certain targets over the next few months? Because at some stage we're going to be free of this crisis, and you've got a strategy behind all of this.
Yes, actually, yeah, it's a different from different areas, right? From online, we're experiencing the growth of online that we never experienced before. Right, so that's something that is very hard for us to put a number on it. Okay, I expect to, the growth our online business like 10 times, by in 3 months' time. It's very difficult to put a number on it because it's growing so fast at the moment compared to this time last month. So, but we're looking at different things. We're looking at we're focusing more. What can we do to connect with our audience, with our customers, that when we do reopen, they won't forget us, right? I think like the conference I was at yesterday was actually one of the examples they used. It was actually fascinating. I think I told you a little bit earlier, Helen, was that they were saying is there's probably a couple of hundred barbers in Cork, right? And they couldn't believe there's no barber actually doing a training video on YouTube at the moment, show people how to cut their hair, right? So I think all of us have a similar issue, and my wife had cut my hair there last week. So it's one of those things. Is if you able to create content that people actually need, people actually want, and you're going to get followers when there's no competition in the marketplace at the moment through social media, and then when you reopen, those people are going to become your customers. So we're looking at a way, talking about with the team at the moment, come up with the idea and see what we can do regarding to how we can come up with content that we can connect with customers. When we do reopen, they know who we are, And also from a supply chain point of view is that, especially when I hear Brian is sourcing products from China, probably very similar to us, right? I'll be having a conversation with our manufacturers every morning. I'll be saying to them, I say, okay, guys, you got a warehouse full of stuff at the moment, right? Let's talk about is how can we help you to move some of that product? How can we secure that product for a second half of the year at a discount? Because they have a product in their warehouse, they can shift. And because people are canceling their orders left and right and center. So now is the opportunity that let's have a chat about that. So we're kind of future-proofing our business, like say, okay, look, our business is kind of like really kind of slowing down now, but we're aiming to by Christmas we should hit a high, and what can we do to kind of secure our supply chain for that?
So Stephen, what I'll do is I'll finish on that note, but thank you so much for your contribution, because I need to make sure that Niall Gannon, our next speaker, Niall is the operations manager with PEI, a company that's actually in business for the last 29 years and based in Dublin. And they're a leading surgical and medical device distributor in Ireland. And it's actually, let me correct myself, Niall is actually with the company 29 years, but it's a family-run business with 54 years old, which is, an amazing achievement for any Indigenous company. So Niall, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your business and where you're at now, following this crisis?
Hi, Helen. Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, we're a family-run business, just over for 54 years. Yeah, me personally, I'm with the company 29 years. Seen a lot of change over those years. I'm not a family member, so you wonder how did I stay there 29 years. But the company continuously changes, and the fields we're in are orthopedics, vascular, pain management, surgical gloves, and then the latest one is sleep apnea. So straight away, you can see we have a big mix there. The first really to hit us is orthopedics, because all elective surgery has just been stopped. So, and that'd be 60% of our business. So that was a big shock, and that has hurt us. But the upside is some of the other areas, and one of those areas is obviously the gloves. So you can imagine the hospitals are crying out for the gloves. But again, the right mix and match of gloves, you'd be amazed at different types of gloves that are available in the market. It's trying to get them right. And unfortunately, forecasting orders takes up to 3 months for our gloves to get here. So only this week we got our supply of gloves that we ordered in December. So that'll tell you what it's like. But we are working with our suppliers to try and get more and more for the HSC. We work with the HSC quite intensely. Every day we'd be onto them trying to help them, and to source all sorts of types of gloves or any sort of PVV stock at all. We're trying to get some masks for them as well, anything at all. So we operate a model whereby we only deal with one supplier per product. So with that, like we're with this company who supply the gloves for over 30 years. So there's a big trust there, and we only deal in quality products as well. So the hospitals know that they're getting good quality products from us. And that has stood to us because we now have the HSE and other hospitals coming to us, giving us future orders to say, yes, even when this is over in 2 or 3 months' time, we're still going to need the supply. So our future orders look excellent into August, September, October, because the hospitals and everybody's going to need them. But the current, we're just trying to get as much as we can, and we have containers coming in on a weekly basis, but we can't say when they're going to come in because of the backlog.
And this was the big challenge that you spoke about with me yesterday. You've got bigger orders with the HSC, but the supplies coming in are much slower because they're coming from Malaysia.
That's right, yeah. But now they're trying to work with us to get other supplies quicker. You know, they would have some European hubs, but like everything, if these aren't forecasted, they're not made. So, but we have good, strong relationships with them, and that's standing to us in the model that we use with one supplier. You know, we don't do various suppliers.
And one of the other areas you spoke about, Niall, was the customer loyalty and also the quality that you produce in terms of the products that you supply.
Yeah, what's come across, I'm sure we've all gone through, is tender process, and the tender process always is a big focus on price. And you know, hands up PEI, we don't do small low prices. You know, we do quality products, and our price we always keep fair. But now we're seeing that the hospital come back to us and saying, right, we know we want quality products, and we know that, you know, the prices you charge are fair. So we reckon we're going to see an upsurge in that, and it's something that I think will stand to us in the future.
So can I ask you, Niall, have you become more efficient? Because everybody has to everybody recalibrates, or just kind of, because you've got 100 employees. How many employees do you have now, or many?
Yeah, we have 95 employees. So across the various areas, obviously there's different numbers, but the big area at the moment as well that's keeping us is the sleep apnea. So that's an area we're into. That's our latest, our newest business, and it's 10 years old. But we've learned a lot in those 10 years. And this time last year, we learned a lot from the snow and Brexit. The snow helped us to get all our IT equipment up to date. So we've a new phone system, we VPNs, everybody has laptops. So ultimately, on the Monday before St. Patrick's Day, it was 1 o'clock. Everybody out of the office gone home with their laptops, and they had VPN connectivity, and they had phones, systems that they could work from home as if they were in the office. So that was from our lessons learned from the snow and the storms that we all were witnessed over the last 12 months. The other area then was with the sleep apnea was we developed a new app, and we have a virtual offer out there now that allows us work with our customers virtually, and that has been a huge success. We tried it, and like everything, some went with, some consultants liked it, some didn't. Now, interesting enough, because of this forced on them, they nearly all want it. So people now are getting used to it as well, and it's not as big a change as people thought. So we actually had our busiest month in March than all the previous months.
Wow.
because of it. Health is at the end of it, I suppose. So people like to look after their health, and we were able to do that. So between the gloves and the sleep apnea products, we're quite busy.
So have you redeployed staff from the orthopedics part of the business then? Have you
not yet.
Okay.
But what those teams are doing is they're doing an awful lot of training. They're doing an awful lot of training with their suppliers, internal training among themselves. They're training even the operations teams, stuff that you always put on the long finger. And now every day we have a training like this, a Zoom meeting for half an hour, and we're getting a lot of product training.
Okay.
Just great.
And can I ask you now, have you used any of the government supports to kind of prop you up for the time being? And
not yet. You know, we've been fortunate enough. What we've done is we've been able to guarantee our employees' salary till the 31st of May. And that was something that we did very early on, that we communicated with them and gave them that reassurance that this is where the company's position was. And then we do have daily meetings via Zoom and Team. Everybody gets an update. The MD, every day he joins a different team, so they get to see and hear from the man himself. And we are very open with communication with staff, and that's been very important. And we haven't given them any aspirational. It's all facts, and we tell them what we know. So, and that's the best way.
okay, and in terms of, and that's a really good thing. The open communications is so fundamental in this particular at this particular time, because you know employees are worried, they're fearful for their lives. You know, they've got families, so I think communication is king if you get that right. You were hugely enthusiastic as well when I spoke to you, because I think you've seen the opportunity now to move into a whole new space.
Yeah.
Any other area that you think that you could actually kind of consider getting involved in, or have you any strategy to kind of recalibrate again and look at other areas?
Well, definitely we've learned a lot from the sleep business and the virtual and the personalized app, and getting the data out there real time, and also with our customers. You know, the consultants, they themselves now can use this information, can get it quicker and faster. Everybody likes the one-to-one consultations, you know, I'm sure. So we would have offered this in the past, but everybody likes to go and visit. But now I reckon there's going to be you know, you have a choice. You know, there's going to be a choice. The model will go back to the one-on-one meetings, but then there will be times where there's a backlog of that and somebody will want to do these virtual. And we're already looking at this model for other parts of our business as well, that possibly may take on. And now we're able to prove that it does work. We're the only company among our competitors still working. So that's a big plus for us, to show that the model actually works. And we're getting some new customers and old customers on board that possibly in the past, you know, may not have, but now they can't believe that we're able to offer this. So
you really haven't put your eggs into one basket, which I think is good.
No, we've been lucky that we didn't. But I suppose, you know, 10 years ago when we didn't have this, to be honest with you, yes, our business probably would be fairly static. So the elective business, all the orthopedics. So we're in that space as well with the orthopedics and the other areas. We're planning for the reopening and the upsurge, and that's, you know, we're with the hospitals every day as well, listening to their plans, you know, the privates and the publics and that, because we have an awful lot of consignment stock out there that needs looking after. So we're constantly trying to hear what the plans are and how can we work with them. We would do some training as well with the consultants as well and the surgeons, and like that, trying to give them that, be ready for when it does actually come back on board. So they're very thankful of it and they're appreciative of it. So.
Okay, Niall, thank you very much. I'm getting a thumbs up here. So if I'm somewhat distracted, I'm watching a WhatsApp chat box here, and I'm now actually being told by Shannon that he's going to unmute you so you can engage with questions. But can I just say to the panelists, thank you so much for sharing your story and being very open and honest and frank with where you're at. It is a very challenging time. Businesses who've had to literally ramp down and potentially look at ramping up at some stage. But Shannon, would you like to intervene, engage with the panelists?
Sure. Thank you very much. Listen, guys, it's been really, really good. I very much appreciated. I suppose we have a few questions here, and they're kind of around different topics. So I suppose for any of you to jump out if you wish. It was mentioned briefly, but in terms of state supports, such as a wage subsidy scheme, it was touched on briefly. Have any of you used them? But if you haven't used them, or if you are using them, do you have any concerns about using them?
To start off, and we haven't taken them yet because a lot of our staff will be part-time. They've all been kind of sent down the route of if you want to apply for the COVID payment, please do, and they'll probably do better off out of it, to be honest. So they'll do that. But we haven't moved towards it yet because, well, to be brutally honest, our payroll is probably not big. Like it wouldn't make a huge amount of difference anyway. We're just trying to keep as much cash as we can in the business. So 30 or 40% of a payroll that we still have to pay, it's still cash going out that we do need to keep for our fixed overhead that isn't going away. So like for us, we negotiated with a lot of our suppliers, got our overhead right down, put rent freeze on our premises, and did as much as we can with lenders and people like that. But we haven't gone with the revenue just yet, and we don't plan to either at the moment.
Okay, great. Does any of the other panelists, do you guys have any strong opinions on the wage subsidy scheme as it exists at the moment? And you don't have to. It's okay. It's okay not to.
Well, okay. we're with the Retail Excellent group, and we were kind of like advised, kind of almost like against it. Because everybody seems to be because in our industry, I suppose everybody's in a different. They could be part-time. They could be doing different hours. They could be getting different supplements. All that. It's very hard for us to know what individual situations are. So that's the kind of the reason we kind of gone against it, to just to kind of to simplify things. We just advise that our own staff to actually deal with the revenue directly. Sorry, the social welfare directly.
Yeah. Okay. And going back to something that was commented on by one of the audience members, Stephen and Brian's point seems to be kind of staying relevant to your customers, so that when the restrictions are lifted, that your customers will come back to you. But obviously, that's kind of a perfect world situation, and we're very far from a perfect world at the moment. So how are all of you as panelists engaging with your customers today to help ensure that they will come back to you when all this is over, and be those internal customers or external customers, so internal to within your group? How are you staying relevant?
Well, we're daily in contact with the HSE and the hospitals, and that's actually what our sales teams are doing well as well. They're keeping in contact with all the surgeons and the consultants, so we're all up to date, and we're hearing everything that's happening in their world as well. So to see how can we help at all. So we've even taken some products from the group of hospitals in Dublin to store it for them because they've run out of storage space, so they didn't get into vital equipment. So that just came from conversation that they were struggling, and that we said, look, we've free space, just bring it over. So we're looking after that free of charge for them. So that how can we help more? And they know there's more space there. So daily things are changing, and it's just as long as the communication is open both ways.
Perfect. Does anyone else want to comment on that?
Yeah, Shannon, just from our side, on a weekly basis, we're working with all our customers to assure them that there is no risk that we won't be able to supply in the future. With large car manufacturers, they obviously have hundreds of suppliers, and so they're on a weekly basis making sure that everyone has the cash flow to return. So they're kind of questioning that. So we can reassure them to that we have the capacity and that we will be coming back. So they send this out in a questionnaire format, actually once per week.
Cool. Okay. Excellent.
I think generally, one of the things I hear a lot of, through the different conference, different business leaders, what they were saying is that just go ask your customers, how are they doing? Like we would have been like with our concession store partner, the wholesale partners, and I think everybody was anxious because it's a new territory. Nobody actually been there before. And we just pick up the phone and ring every single one of them. Just make sure, keep in touch if you need anything. Like we even gone through the length of we actually air freight masks over from China, and to make sure just send them directly to our clients, and just make sure, look, if you guys are open, here's some PPE for you guys anyway. Just I think those are small things, and people do kind of remember. And now with our normal, the day-to-day customers, our retail customers, just think about the content. Think about what they are doing at home. Are they, what are they doing? What do they need? And then we just kind of make sure we have a certain content send out every day, just to try to fill those needs.
Okay, I have a question here, and Helen, if I could interject, it's one of our participants to the group. If you were planning for reopening after COVID-19, would you put your effort into leaning up the business internally or try to add more value to your customers externally? It's hard to anticipate customers' expectations beyond COVID-19 at this point. It's a really good question. To take that first. Maybe John, I'll put you out there for.
Yeah, in terms of what our customers do, we have no influence. I think they've already put it out there that they will start at probably 25%, which is one shift from a 3-shift model. Our focus will be internally, so we've already kicked that off, and we have benefited at this point from having a lean production system, because if you visit our plant at the minute, there is almost nothing in terms of finished goods, only safety stock, and there's almost nothing in terms of work in progress in terms of safety stock, or only safety stock. So we carry around about 1 day stock at each stage of the value stream. So we have benefited from our lean approach in terms of not tying up net working capital with this crisis, but in the future we're going to have to get the competitive edge. We're definitely going to have to increase our lean efforts.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Shannon, am I to wrap up? We got.
No.
The other panelists to answer that question.
Yeah, it's a really good question, so I think it's worth pursuing. But we'll have to wrap up in the next 2 or 3 minutes.
Brilliant. Niall, can I hand it over to you?
Yeah. For us, it's going to be, we see it as a huge opportunities because we've always been trying to work with our customers to change. And everybody knows, unfortunately, the HSE and the hospital environment, they're so big, they're so slow to change, and that can be frustrating. So now with this, we're seeing, I'd say, an awful lot of the things that we wanted to work with them with, they're actually now going to be able to do it and see the advantages in it. So we're looking forward to when it comes back on stream to be able to really go with it. And I'd say we'll see a change in mindset and a change in the way they work in the future. And that will benefit us dramatically.
Thank you, Niall. Brian, do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, I suppose for us, we'll probably look to add more value to our customers, definitely. I suppose the thing I've always said coming into this time of year was, geez, if only I had time to do X, Y, and Z, we'd be a far better business for our customers and for us. So now we have that time, so now it's time to do the X, Y, and Z. So yeah, we're looking at definitely our marketing externally to work with our customers on that, and then internally upskilling the people that are still here. They're the two big things we want to look at ourselves.
Thank you, Brian. And Stephen, just one final comment on that question.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm hoping to, after this thing is over, I'm hoping we'll travel less. You know, definitely, hopefully using more the Zoom or conferencing to deal with the customer that way. You know, rather than me driving to Donegal, you know, I can actually just have a meeting like this with our clients in Letterkenny, for example, you know, and that's something I'll be looking at.
Okay, thank you very much, Stephen. I think, Shannon, it's time to wrap up. Am I getting the thumbs up from you?
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you to Helen for moderating. You've done a fantastic job. Thank you to all the attendees. I would just say check out leanbusinessireland.ie where you'll see a recording of this, but also there's a wealth of knowledge in terms of other content and data. And also on the top right-hand side of leanbusinessireland.ie, there's a Join Us section where you can actually join your local regional network. That's, I suppose, your one action. We will be following up with the recording of this and the answers to some of the questions that weren't asked out loud. So thank you very much, everybody, and have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you.